Recession-proof your business is what all the coaches are talking about right now. But we all know that coaches talk a lot of So how the are we supposed to actually recession-proof our businesses? Never fear, my friend. I am giving you 5 different things that you can and should do to make sure that your business thrives through this next recession. I'm Amy Walker, and I help clients create consistent, predictable sales through organic marketing and scalable sales strategies. And if you're watching this video, chances are that you have been hearing all about this looming recession, and it feels a little bit like the boogeyman is coming. As a small business owner, sometimes we do feel the waves of the economic shift more than big companies do. And it doesn't take as much water to sink our ships. So we should be recession-proofing our businesses right now. But we do not need to be afraid of it.
It's not scary, okay?
And in reality, most of the things that you need to do to recession-proof your business are just really good business practices. So don't buy into the fear commentary that you're hearing on the news, but do create a strong plan. Tip number 1, I want you to have a profit plan for your business. That means I want you to look at your expenses. I want you to look at your overhead. I want you to look at your marketing costs, your payroll, all of the money that's going out, cost of goods, cost of manufacturing, cost of shipping, cost of fulfillment, all of that. And I want you to analyze how much it's all costing you right now. And then look at the profit margin that you want to place on top of that. Be very, very careful that you don't consider your labor to be free, because then you won't be able to afford to hire anybody to help you as you grow. We need to re-look at this, even if you've done it in the past, because prices have changed, costs have changed. We've got inflation going on right now.
Everything is so expensive.
That is step number 1. Make sure that you're actually priced accordingly so that you can be profitable. Tip number 2, cash is king. You need to protect your cash flow. And a lot of these strategies that I'm going to give you today are really going to focus around that. I think everybody should always have 3 months of cash on hand to cover any little blips, bumps, and things that come up along the way. That way you can have a bad month, and a bad month isn't the end of your business. It's not the end of the world.
It's the end!
Now, we all know that we should have that, but it's a little bit more serious and more important than normal during a recession. It's also one of those things like if you should have had the oil in your lamps, but if you didn't, now you're kind of in a challenging spot. So if you're sitting there and you're saying, okay, yeah, I know I need that, but I'm struggling to make all of my payments right now. How am I supposed to build that cash flow up when I know that the recession is coming? You're going to do the best that you can. You're going to follow some of the other steps, and they should help you to be able to create more profits. And then you should be setting your profits aside in order to save for a rainy day. So I get it. If you haven't done this already, and you're struggling with cash flow now, this one might be harder to do, but focus on it. You'd be amazed how when you make this a priority and you just start setting aside a little bit of money every single week, that you can build up that cash flow much faster than you think that you can. Okay, tip number 3 is to restructure your debt and secure funding before you actually need it. So debt is different in business than it is in your personal life. In your personal life, debt you consider to be any money owed. Debt in business is your assets versus your liabilities. And if your assets outweigh your liabilities, then you don't actually have business debt. So let's talk about what that actually means. And I'm just going to use a simple example of your house, because a lot of you actually probably own a house. If you owe $300,000 on your mortgage, but your house is worth $450,000, you actually have $150,000 of assets. And if you needed to, you could sell off your assets to cover your liabilities. So in business, what you want to consider debt is when you have more liabilities than you have assets. And we've all probably experienced that too before, if you've been like upside down in a car or something. So what I want you to do is think about your assets and your debt and your liabilities a little bit differently, and let's restructure them in order to help us with cash flow. So for example, let's say that you need to purchase a new piece of equipment and you're sitting here going, I know we're going into a recession. Should I purchase a piece of new equipment or should I not purchase it? Now is a time when I would absolutely cover my big expenses through debt. And I'm talking about good debt here. So I'm not, going to go to a loan shark and get a terrible interest rate, but
Credit card debt, credit card debt.
I would take big expenses and I would pay for that on my funding that I have available. So that way my monthly payments are lower and it's going to keep me cash solvent. If you will go through and look at all of the liabilities that you have, maybe see if you can restructure them in a way that is going to free up cash each month. That's a very powerful thing to do. Even if you have higher interest rates, which you are going to have right now versus what you had a couple months ago or a couple years ago, I would still restructure to get the payments down in order to have more cash available to prepare you for the recession. Along with this concept of cash being king, be careful about your monthly expenditures. This is not the time where I would be looking to take on really high monthly expenditures. I'd be doing everything I can to finance those, keep my payments down. And also I think it's a good time to be cautious about your spending. Don't overspend right now. If these tips are helpful and you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell notification so you can get notified every time we release new content. And if you're back again, like the video so that way YouTube knows that people actually do like and watch your videos, and then they can share them to more people. Okay, tip number 4 is to keep your team agile and flexible. This is a time where you really want to be utilizing independent virtual contractors, especially overseas contractors that are going to be able to help you pull your costs down. It's a great time to use, even if you're stateside, instead of an employee, would it work to be able to have an independent contractor do this? The reason for that is because it gives you a little bit more leeway versus having an employee where you have to pay a set salary and you have to pay unemployment and you have to pay for all of these things. If you can, for that position, create some flexibility, bring someone on as an IC, and then you have more say in how things move. If a month comes where you're like, ooh, we're a little cash tight, you could do some of that fulfillment work this month as the business owner. It's definitely a good time to look at how much you're paying, who you're paying, how you're paying them, and if there's ways to create more flexibility for you in that area. Because the reality is you're still going to need help running your business. All right, tip number 5, you might not know that this type of service exists, but it does. It's going to be a little bit different for every industry, so I'm not going to tell you exactly where you should go, only that this exists, which is funding options for your clients, that you can become basically like you have an account with a funding institution that will fund your clients so that you can get paid up front and then they hold the accounts receivable. So this would be, and it exists, it's different for different industries. So you need to search by your industry. So for me, I do business consulting and coaching. There are coach financing programs out there where I can send my clients to go talk to this independent third-party financing company. That company comes back and says, all right, here's how much money we approve you for. Then the company pays me and the client pays the company. So they hold the accounts receivable and I get the cash up front. This is good for a couple of reasons. Number 1, it's good for me because again, this is the time where I really want to be cash solvent. I want lots of cash on hand. Number 2, it's good for the clients because the clients, instead of paying a big lump sum, they're going to be able to pay that over time. They will have interest associated with that, and they're going to be able to make lower monthly payments. They can even sometimes adjust and play with the payment options to be able to see what's going to give them the best strategies there. If you have a lot of accounts receivable and you're wanting to get more cash flow coming in, here comes the money. There are organizations that will give you cash receivable loans as well. So you can basically say, here's how much is owed to us. They'll give you a chunk of that and then they take on the accounts receivable. So there are options. Again, they vary depending on industry. So a doctor is going to be working with probably different companies than a mechanic. and a mechanic is going to be working with different companies than like a coach. But if you have high ticket sales or high ticket products or services that you do right now, I would definitely look at plugging in some independent third-party financing options to help it be easier for your clients to pay you. The other thing that I would look at here too, and this is going to be, I guess this is a bonus tip, I'll throw this in. I would also be looking at how can you create affordable value adds for people right now as we're moving into the recession. So for example, I have my core program that I love. It's called the Client Acquisition Lab. It's a phenomenal resource and tool for business owners. We have in the last couple of months been selling same sales volume, but we are selling more of our entry-level program than we have throughout the rest of the year. Why? Because it's more affordable. It's less cash out. It still is a really great service. And so I'm actually looking at that program right now saying, how can I make that program more awesome? How can I make that program better and more involved and have higher accountability without increasing my cost of fulfillment? Because I can see that there's a trend where more people are like, yeah, I want to work with you. I want in, but I want to start at an affordable price point. So just something to look at to give your clients more options. How can you create high value, not cost you a lot more money, and be affordable for them? All right, we have been talking all about how to recession-proof your business here. The next video that I'm gonna tell you to go watch is actually a 15-minute masterclass that is going to teach you all about how to hire that virtual team, whether they're overseas virtual assistants or they're local to you, independent contractors. It's gonna go through everything you need to know in order to be able to do that. So go check out that next video.